The story begins not with a beginning, but with an ending, or perhaps, a brutal, visceral punctuation mark in a life irrevocably altered. Dana, a young black woman living in 1976 Los Angeles, finds herself in a hospital bed, her left arm severed above the elbow. The loss is not just physical, it's a profound echo of the harrowing journey she has just endured, a journey through time itself. Her husband, Kevin, a white writer, is with her, a steadfast presence in the aftermath of a nightmare that has bled into their present. The police, their faces like shifting shadows, come and go, their questions a repetitive, frustrating drone. How did you hurt your arm? Who hurt you? Their suspicion, chilling and immediate, falls upon Kevin. Dana, weakened and disoriented, struggles to make them understand that this was no ordinary assault, no domestic dispute. It was an accident, she whispers, an accident forged in the crucible of a past that refused to stay buried. The narrative then rewinds, taking us back to the moment Dana and Kevin's seemingly ordinary life exploded into the extraordinary. It is Dana's 26th birthday, a day that should have been filled with the comfortable normalcy of their shared apartment, their books, their dreams of a future together. They are surrounded by unpacked boxes, the detritus of their recent move, a symbol of the new chapter they are embarking upon. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness washes over Dana, a disorientation that quickly morphs into a horrifying sense of being pulled, stretched, and twisted. The familiar walls of their apartment dissolve, replaced by the stark, terrifying reality of a riverbank. A small, red-haired boy is drowning, his screams echoing across the water. Without conscious thought, Dana plunges into the murky depths, her instincts overriding all fear. She pulls the child from the water, saving him from the relentless embrace of the current. But before she can fully register the strangeness of her surroundings, a man, a white man with a rifle, appears, aiming directly at her. Fear, cold and sharp, pierces through her. And then, just as suddenly as she arrived, she is gone, yanked back to her own time, collapsing back into her living room, gasping for air, her clothes soaked and muddy. Kevin, bewildered and frightened, tries to make sense of her inexplicable disappearance and reappearance. He is a pragmatic man, rooted in the tangible, and this defies all logic. Dana, equally stunned, can only repeat the impossible. She saved a boy, a white boy, from drowning. The incident, bizarre as it is brushed off as a hallucination, a vivid dream. But the mud on her clothes, the lingering scent of river water, are undeniable. The first involuntary journey to the past sets a terrifying precedent, and the subsequent trips become more frequent, more demanding, and more dangerous. Each time, Dana is drawn back to the same young boy, Rufus Whalen, the son of a Maryland plantation owner in the early 1800s. She is tethered to him, inexplicably linked by some unseen force. Her presence in this brutal, alien world is always triggered by a moment of life-threatening peril for Rufus, and her return to 1976 always occurs when her own life is in danger. This strange, involuntary dance between two centuries begins to unravel the comfortable fabric of Dana and Kevin's life. Their first return to the past, together this time, is a jarring immersion into the harsh realities of slavery. Dana, still grappling with the sheer impossibility of it all, finds herself in a time where her very existence as a black woman is a commodity, where her freedom is non-existent. Kevin, initially skeptical, is forced to confront the brutal truth of the era, the casual cruelty, the ingrained racism. They arrive not in the Whalen house, but in the slave quarters, a small, dark cabin. The stench of poverty, of unwashed bodies, of fear, assaults their senses. They are mistaken for runaways, a dangerous assumption in a time when such an accusation could lead to unimaginable horrors. It is Rufus, now a young boy, who finds them, his curiosity overriding his caution. He is a product of his environment, already possessing the ingrained prejudices of his family, but there is also a nascent, childlike vulnerability about him. Rufus, intrigued by these strange newcomers, brings them to his father, Tom Whalen, the master of the plantation. Tom Whalen is a hard, unyielding man, a product of the slave-owning South, his heart hardened by generations of absolute power. He is suspicious, calculating, and quick to anger. Dana, acutely aware of the precariousness of their situation, quickly fabricates a story. They are free Negroes from New York, a brother and sister, who have lost their papers and been robbed. Kevin, a white man, is able to pass as her owner, a painful but necessary charade to ensure their survival. This charade, however, begins to chip away at their own relationship, forcing them into roles that mirror the very injustice they despise. The days that follow are a brutal education in the realities of slavery. Dana witnesses firsthand the casual violence, the dehumanization, the constant fear that permeates the lives of the enslaved. She sees the overseer, a cruel and unforgiving man named Edwards, wield his whip with chilling efficiency. She sees the desperation in the eyes of the field hands, the quiet rebellion, the profound exhaustion. She meets Alice, a young enslaved woman, who will become an important, tragic figure in her life. Alice is fiercely independent, defiant, and deeply distrustful of all white people, including Dana, who, in her eyes, is still a stranger, an anomaly. Kevin, too, is forced to confront the ugliness of the past. His initial intellectual understanding of slavery morphs into a visceral, gut-wrenching realization of its true horror. He struggles with his complicity in their charade, the uncomfortable power dynamic it creates between him and Dana, and the moral compromises they are forced to make to survive. He tries to understand, to empathize, but there is a chasm between them, a chasm of race and experience that the time travel only amplifies. One day, while exploring the plantation, Dana encounters a young slave girl, Tess, being whipped by Edwards. The sight is horrific, but Dana, knowing the fragility of her own position, can do nothing. This helplessness, this forced silence in the face of such injustice, gnaws at her. It is Rufus, however, who intervenes, in his own peculiar way, by telling his father about Edward's excessive cruelty. This act, however small, hints at a complex relationship between Rufus and the enslaved, a relationship that is both paternalistic and, at times, surprisingly compassionate. Their second trip together to the past is marked by a terrifying fire that engulfs the Whalen house. This time, Dana and Kevin arrive in the midst of chaos, the air thick with smoke, the sounds of shouting and screaming filling the night. Rufus, now slightly older, is trapped inside, his cries echoing from the burning structure. Dana, driven by the inexplicable bond she shares with him, rushes into the inferno, pulling him to safety. Kevin, ever the protector, follows, helping to battle the flames and rescue other members of the household. In the aftermath of the fire, the Whalen family, shattered and dispossessed, is forced to temporarily relocate to the slave quarters. This enforced proximity creates a strange, uncomfortable intimacy between master and slave, blurring the lines of their rigid social structure. Dana, despite her continued discomfort with her role, becomes an invaluable asset. Her knowledge of medicine, rudimentary by 20th century standards but far advanced for the 19th century, makes her indispensable. She tends to the injured, calms the frightened, and earns a grudging respect from Tom Whalen, who sees her as a valuable possession. During this period, Dana begins to understand the insidious nature of power and the ways in which it corrupts. She witnesses Tom Whalen's unpredictable temper, his flashes of generosity interspersed with moments of chilling brutality. She sees Sarah, the enslaved cook, who has lost her children to the slave trade, a constant reminder of the devastating human cost of this system. Sarah, initially distrustful of Dana, eventually opens up, sharing her stories of loss and resilience. This shared vulnerability creates a bond between them, a fragile connection across time and experience. Kevin, meanwhile, uses his position as a white man to move more freely within the community. He teaches reading and writing to some of the younger enslaved people, a dangerous act of rebellion in a society that feared literate slaves. He recognizes the moral imperative to help, to impart knowledge, but he also struggles with the inherent contradictions of his presence. He is a white man in a white supremacist society, and even his acts of kindness are tinged with the privilege that defines his existence. One particularly poignant scene involves the brutal whipping of a young enslaved man named Sam, who is caught attempting to escape. Dana, witnessing the horrific spectacle, feels a profound sense of helplessness. It is a stark reminder of the ever-present threat of violence that looms over the enslaved, the constant fear of arbitrary punishment. This experience deepens her resolve to protect herself and, by extension, Kevin, from the same fate. The third trip back in time, however, takes a more sinister turn. Dana finds herself alone, without Kevin. This time, Rufus, a young man now, has fallen from a tree and broken his leg. He is vulnerable, in pain, and desperate for help. Dana, despite her growing resentment of her forced connection to him, tends to his injuries, setting his leg and nursing him back to health. It is during this extended stay that Dana experiences the full weight of her new reality as an enslaved woman. Tom Whalen, seeing Dana's medical skills and her ability to read and write, assigns her to work in the house, a position of relative privilege compared to the field, but one that still strips her of her autonomy. She becomes a companion to Rufus, reading to him, listening to his childish whims and growing frustrations. She observes the intricate dynamics of the Whalen household, the sickly, quiet presence of Mrs. Whalen, Rufus's mother, who seems to exist in a state of perpetual melancholy, the quiet strength of Sarah, the cook, and the ever-present shadow of Tom Whalen's authority. It is during this period that Dana truly begins to understand Rufus's character. He is a complex mix of childish petulance, burgeoning masculinity, and the deep-seated prejudices ingrained in him from birth. He is capable of surprising acts of kindness, but these are often overshadowed by his moments of casual cruelty, his sense of entitlement, and his unpredictable temper. He develops a possessive, almost obsessive, attachment to Dana, seeing her as his property, his companion, his intellectual equal, yet always within the confines of master-slave relationship. This possessiveness, fueled by a distorted form of affection, becomes a source of constant tension and danger for Dana. The longing for Kevin becomes an agonizing ache, a constant undercurrent to her daily life. She tries to write him letters, to leave messages, anything that might bridge the impossible chasm of time. She fears he has given up on her, that he has moved on, that she is trapped forever in this brutal past. Her emotional resilience is tested to its limits, but she clings to the hope of reunion, the belief that Kevin is still searching for her. The incident that finally sends Dana back to her own time is a direct consequence of Rufus's growing possessiveness. He catches her trying to send a letter to Kevin, a desperate attempt to reconnect. His jealousy, coupled with his ingrained belief in his absolute right to control her, ignites his fury. He strikes her, a brutal blow that sends her reeling. The violence, the stark reminder of her powerlessness, triggers her return to 1976. Back in 1976, the reunion with Kevin is fraught with relief and tension. Months have passed for him, years for her. He has been searching, tirelessly, for any sign of her, his own life put on hold. Dana, however, carries the weight of her time in the past, the trauma of slavery, the emotional scars that run deeper than any physical wound. She is no longer the same woman who left. The experience has etched itself onto her soul, hardening her, making her more wary, more resilient, but also more distant. The return to the past, when it inevitably comes, is marked by a profound sense of dread. This time, Rufus is a young man, a mirror of his father's worst traits. He has become a bitter, disillusioned figure, struggling with the complexities of his relationships with his enslaved people, particularly Alice, who has become his reluctant lover. He has fallen into a pattern of drinking and gambling, his life spiraling out of control. Dana finds herself once again caught in the twisted web of Rufus's life. He has inherited his father's plantation, and with it, the burden of ownership, the constant struggle to control his increasingly rebellious slaves. He is a master, but also a prisoner of his own privilege and his own warped understanding of love and power. He is obsessed with Alice, a woman who despises him, a woman he has forced into a sexual relationship. This obsession, fueled by his desperate need for affection and his inability to truly connect with anyone, becomes a destructive force for all involved. Dana, now more attuned to the dynamics of the plantation, witnesses the escalating tension between Rufus and Alice. Alice, a woman of fierce spirit, resists Rufus's advances, her hatred for him palpable. But she is trapped, forced to endure his brutal attention, her only hope for survival lying in a desperate, and ultimately tragic, act of defiance. During this period, Dana's skills as a healer are once again called upon. She tends to the enslaved, offering what comfort and medical care she can, but always aware of the limitations of her power. She tries to reason with Rufus, to appeal to his better nature, to make him see the injustice of his actions, but his ingrained prejudices and his deep-seated insecurities make him resistant to any form of genuine empathy. The emotional toll on Dana is immense. She is constantly walking a tightrope, navigating the treacherous terrain of slave society, trying to protect herself and those she cares about, while simultaneously trying to influence Rufus, to guide him away from his destructive path. She sees the echoes of her own ancestors in the faces of the enslaved, the quiet acts of resistance, the heartbreaking resilience. The catalyst for their next departure is another violent confrontation with Rufus. He has grown increasingly erratic, his temper flaring, his demands becoming more unreasonable. He attempts to rape Dana, his distorted sense of ownership overriding any semblance of respect or humanity. Dana, fighting for her life, manages to repel him, striking him with a heavy object. The act of self-preservation, the act of defiance against a deeply ingrained system of oppression, triggers her return to 1976. Back in 1976, the emotional wounds from the past are deeper than ever. Dana and Kevin are both scarred, their relationship strained by the impossible demands of their time-traveling existence. Kevin, having spent prolonged periods in the past, has adopted certain behaviors and speech patterns that reflect his immersion in the 19th century. He is more reserved, more introspective, carrying the weight of the horrors he has witnessed. Their next trip back is a brutal descent into the storm of the Civil War. The world they enter is one of chaos and upheaval, the echoes of war thundering in the distance. The plantation, once a relatively stable, albeit brutal, environment, is now a place of increasing instability. Slave patrols are more frequent, the fear of runaway slaves more pervasive. The master, Tom Whalen, is dead, and Rufus, now fully in charge, is struggling to maintain control of his increasingly restless human property. Rufus, despite his flaws, is now a man consumed by his own personal tragedies. Alice, his forced mistress, has given birth to their child, a son, but she has also taken her own life, driven to despair by the brutal realities of her existence. This tragedy, a direct consequence of Rufus's actions, has shattered him, leaving him a broken, unpredictable man. He turns to Dana, seeking comfort, understanding, and a twisted form of solace. He sees her as a surrogate for Alice, a woman who can understand his pain, his loneliness, his profound sense of loss. Dana, despite her revulsion, is forced to play a delicate game. She tries to offer him what comfort she can, to guide him, to appeal to the remnants of his humanity, but she is always aware of the immense danger she is in. His grief is intertwined with his possessiveness, his self-pity with his ingrained sense of entitlement. He begins to treat Dana with a chilling blend of affection and control, her freedom constantly at his whim. He sees her as his only remaining connection to a twisted form of love. During this period, Dana witnesses the growing desperation among the enslaved. Some attempt to escape, their courage a testament to their desire for freedom, their desperation a reflection of their unbearable circumstances. She sees the harsh consequences of their attempts, the brutal punishments inflicted upon those who are caught. She also observes the emergence of a quiet, subtle form of resistance among the enslaved, the way they band together, share information, and offer each other what little support they can. Kevin, meanwhile, is separated from Dana, lost in the chaotic landscape of the war-torn South. He struggles to find her, his fear for her safety a constant torment. He encounters other white people, some sympathetic to the plight of the enslaved, others deeply entrenched in the racist ideology of the time. His experiences in the past continue to shape him, stripping away his liberal idealism and forcing him to confront the complexities of race and power in a way he never could have imagined. The escalating tension between Rufus and Dana reaches a terrifying climax. Rufus, driven by his grief, his loneliness, and his distorted sense of love, makes an increasingly desperate attempt to keep Dana tied to him. He tries to force her into a permanent relationship, to make her his wife, to claim her entirely. His possessiveness morphs into a chilling determination to control her destiny, to deny her any semblance of freedom. This final, desperate act of control triggers Dana's most violent act of self-preservation. The final, decisive trip to the past is the most harrowing of all. Dana finds herself alone again, back at the Whalen plantation, now a desolate, decaying place. Rufus, a shadow of his former self, is consumed by despair and rage. He is more erratic, more violent, more desperate than ever. His obsession with Dana has grown into a dangerous, suffocating attachment. He sees her as his last hope, his last chance at redemption, but his love is twisted, possessive, and ultimately destructive. He has been unable to find another woman to replace Alice, his desires and expectations warped by his relationship with her. He now projects all his needs and desires onto Dana, seeing her as the only one who can understand him, who can ease his torment. He tries to force her into his bed, to claim her completely, physically and emotionally. His grip on reality is tenuous, his actions driven by a desperate, pathological need for control. Dana, exhausted and emotionally drained, recognizes the profound danger she is in. She has tried everything, reasoning, empathy, defiance, but nothing can penetrate the impenetrable wall of Rufus's entitlement and his warped perception of love. She understands, with chilling clarity, that the only way to escape this living hell, to truly be free, is to sever the connection to him, to destroy the link that binds them across time. The final confrontation is a brutal, agonizing struggle. Rufus, in his desperation, tries to force her into submission. He corners her, his eyes wild with a mixture of desire and desperation. He reaches for her, attempting to pull her into his embrace. Dana, driven by an instinct for survival, by a primal need for freedom, acts decisively. She grabs a knife, a desperate weapon against an overwhelming force. She stabs him, not once, but repeatedly, until his grip loosens, until he falls. The act is born not of malice, but of absolute necessity. It is an act of self-defense, a severing of the umbilical cord that has tethered her to a past that threatens to consume her entirely. As Rufus falls, the paradox of their shared existence becomes horrifyingly clear. His death, the severing of the lineage, breaks the connection. But the violence of the act, the very instrument of her escape, also takes a part of her. As she is pulled back to her own time, the process is agonizingly violent. Her left arm, the one she used to stab Rufus, is caught, trapped, in the shifting temporal currents. It is torn from her body, a visceral, bloody price for her freedom. The pain is excruciating, but beneath it lies a profound sense of relief, a raw, primal knowledge that she is finally, truly free. Back in 1976, Dana is in the hospital, her left arm gone, a stark, physical manifestation of the journey she has endured. Kevin is by her side, a testament to the enduring strength of their bond. The police, still questioning, still suspicious, struggle to comprehend the impossible. Dana, through sheer will, manages to convince them that Kevin is innocent, that the injury was an accident, a partial truth, a necessary fabrication. The loss of her arm is a constant, tangible reminder of the past, but it is also a symbol of her survival, her escape. She is irrevocably changed, her life forever marked by the horrors she has witnessed, the compromises she has made, the profound lessons she has learned. Kevin, too, is altered. He carries the weight of his own experiences in the past, his own confrontation with the brutality of slavery, his own struggle with the moral complexities of his existence as a white man in a deeply racist society. In the quiet aftermath, Dana and Kevin attempt to piece together the fragments of their lives. They go to Maryland, to the area where the Wayland plantation once stood. They search for any remnants, any traces of the lives that shaped them, the people they knew. The Wayland house is gone, replaced by modern developments. But they find a library, and within its archives, they discover old maps, old deeds, old census records. They find evidence of the Wayland family, of the enslaved people who lived and died on that land. They find the names, the dates, the cold, factual proof of the lives that shaped their own. They find a record of Alice, Rufus's enslaved mistress, who died just a few years after Rufus's death. They discover that their child, Rufus's son, survived, eventually making his way to freedom. This discovery, a small but significant piece of the puzzle, offers a glimmer of hope, a testament to the enduring spirit of survival, the possibility of a future beyond the brutal legacy of slavery. The novel concludes with Dana and Kevin trying to reconcile their past with their present. Their relationship has been forged in the crucible of time travel, tested by unimaginable horrors. They are bound by their shared experiences, by the silent language of trauma and resilience. The future is uncertain, but there is a quiet strength in their shared presence, a tacit understanding that they have faced the impossible and emerged, irrevocably changed, but together. The scars are permanent, both visible and invisible, but they are also a testament to their survival, to the enduring power of human connection in the face of unimaginable adversity. The loss of Dana's arm is a poignant, painful symbol of the cost of her freedom, but it is also a reminder that she survived, she fought, and she broke free from the insidious grasp of a past that threatened to consume her. The question lingers. How will they carry the weight of this knowledge, this brutal history, into their future, and how will it continue to shape the lives they build together?